Hello everyone, Giltar here with a video on the subject of toy marketing, specifically uh, packaging, I guess design. And this is something that I've been thinking about recently. In a previous video of mine, I mentioned a gentleman by the name of Kirk Bozigian, who was the previous product manager of the G.I. Joe toy line from the inception of the Real American Hero toy line in the early 80s up through to the mid 90s, I believe. He was also the vice president of the Hasbro Boys Toys division. And so he's got definitely a lot of experience and history in not only marketing, but effective marketing, because during the time that he was, I guess, in charge of the G.I. Joe toy marketing, the toy line did really well. And it was, I think, due to basically his approach to marketing, which is a little more old school, um, and a little more, I think, in my opinion, tried and true. Now, Kirk Bozigian recently held a panel at the 2013 G.I. Joe convention called JoeCon. And his panel was basically called, I think, Battle Plan and Tactics and Strategy, or something along those lines. And what it was about was how he and his team worked on the marketing strategies for G.I. Joe during his time in the 80s and the 90s. And he pointed out many different aspects of the marketing elements that were effective and basically the reasons why. And what really struck me about his presentation during that panel was that Hasbro really has abandoned a lot of these concepts lately in the last few years. And in this case, I'll be focusing on using examples from the G.I. Joe toy line. I'll be using examples from three previous lines, the 30th anniversary Renegades line, just the straight up 30th anniversary line, and the 25th anniversary lines. And I'm comparing those to the Retaliation G.I. Joe toy line that is the most recent and current G.I. Joe toys on the market. So, first of all, I just want to say I'm not someone who has any sort of formal marketing background or anything like that in business, but I will say that the things I point out basically seem to make sense. They seem to be valid, solid, and in a way, very simple but effective marketing strategies that Hasbro used to use. So let's start off with Retaliation packaging. And I'll just adjust the focus here so it doesn't get too blurry. But basically, this is the Battle Kata Roadblock packaging for Retaliation. Right away, I'm going to point out a couple of things. First of all, the G.I. Joe Retaliation logo, I know it's probably the movie logo, but it does seem to lose a couple of things from the sort of iconic classic G.I. Joe logo, which is the bars are usually to the right for the red, white, and blue of the American flag. And just the overall color scheme is really, it's warm but one-dimensional. So it's got reds, whites, yellows, oranges in colors, some metallic colors, but nothing else to counterbalance it. We have The Rock as Roadblock and Snake Eyes up there, played by Ray Park. Very sort of generic. I mean, Roadblock has sort of an angry look on his face. Snake Eyes is striking a sort of, I guess, generic ninja with a sword pose. And the thing is that all the Retaliation toy packaging is the same. Everything here is the same. The only difference between each packaging design is that a photo of the figure and just like a name caption, basically. But everything else here, it's the same. So if you look at the Retaliation toys on the shelves or on the pegs of your local stores, it's basically a sea of basically same looking toys. Until you get really up close and can differentiate each one by looking at the picture and looking at the name caption, you really, it's hard to tell them apart because they're all the same. On the back, pretty much the same approach. Everything's the same on the back of all the other packaging as well, except for, I guess, the photos of the toy. Some brief information about the toy. It mentions mix and match the different pieces to create like different weapons. Up here, it gives kind of like a brief bio or information about Roadblock, but basically it says Roadblock battles evil Cobra enemies with his unique Battle Kata fighting system. The G.I. Joe leader uses on-the-fly weapon switching and martial arts moves to take out his attackers. And that's fine and dandy, but gone is the file card or profile card that we used to have with G.I. Joe toys. That was one element that basically individualizes and makes each toy unique. In this one, it basically tries to do a cheap 2-for-1 deal. It tells you about the Battle Kada toy gimmick, and it briefly goes into the character concept or background because it mentions that the G.I. Joe leader, so they're saying that Roadblock is the leader in the Retaliation fiction. To me, it's kind of forgettable, and really, like, why even bother at that point? Because little kids are not going to be reading this too often, I'd say. I think more of them, or most of them rather, would just rip the toy out and just play with it because there's nothing else about the packaging that entices them to engage or interact with the packaging design. Here we have just a few examples of other toys in this wave. My problem with this back design is that it's very unbalanced. It's askew. Visually, it's uncomfortable. It's a little disorienting. And just with the minor space reserved for the extra toys in this wave, it seems like it's an afterthought or something that wasn't very important. And it says up here, look for these other G.I. Joe figures. And that's something called Urge to Action by Kirk Bozigian. During his panel, he described that kind of language as an urge to action. Basically, it entices people to buy more of the toys. However, this uses very passive language, very weak language, and combined with the shoddy presentation of the other toys in this line, I don't think it's very effective. So overall, this packaging is forgettable. It's disposable because it's all generic. There's no reason to keep this packaging because there's nothing about it that stands out. There's nothing that makes it special. So moving on, I have an example of the Renegades toys from about 2 years ago. This is airtight. Individualized art for the front of the card. Classic red, white, and blue bars. Notes that it's the Renegades line. Back here, again, individualized artwork. We have a file card that makes this toy packaging at least stand out a little more because, you know, this is something unique to this toy. It says here, clip and collect character ID cards. So it's urging people to say, hey, this is something special that you can keep. Not only is the toy collectible, but this part of the packaging is collectible. In large, bold letters, it says collect them all. So it's very assertive language. So this urge to action is much more effective than the Retaliation sort of approach where it just says, look for these other toys. This one tells you, collect them all. Exclamation point. So definitely, again, it's more assertive. And again, it shows here the cross-sell concept of these are other toys in this wave that you can also collect. Next example is the Iron Grenadier from, again, the 30th anniversary line, though it's not a Renegades toy. Again, individualized art for the front, classic red, white, and blue. Repetition. So again, individualized art, cross-sell, urge to sell, collect them all, assertive language, a file card. People are told, clip it and collect it and save it for your collection. So again, it makes people think not only is the toy collectible, but parts of the packaging are collectible too. It engages the customer. You know, it's not just something to be thrown aside. And one really great thing about this particular toy is that it says that French and Spanish cards are inside. So if English isn't your primary language, there are 2 other file cards, I don't know if you can make it out, inside the packaging, which French or Spanish language speakers can use instead. Finally, 25th anniversary Arctic Trooper Snake Eyes. It basically replicates the classic A Real American Hero, as you can see up here, packaging design with vibrant, dynamic character art in the front, a bit of an explosion in the back, classic red, white, and blue colors. And once again, individualized back of the card with a file card. Again, you're told to clip and collect them all. This one, urge to action, more team members on the way. And a really big selection of cross-sell of different figures, different toys in the collection. And it mentions this is the 25th anniversary, so it goes, celebrate 25 years with the Ultimate Action Team. So it's telling you, G.I. Joe is the Ultimate Action Team. It's trying to tell you that this is the choice that you should and only you can make if you're looking for action figures, action toys. So overall, basically, the way I look at it is when you break it down, the Retaliation toy line, the sort of I guess, psychology behind that from the marketers is that it's relying upon the name recognition, the name value of the Retaliation movie to sell these particular G.I. Joe toys. And that's not wrong. I mean, these are indeed toys based off of the Retaliation characters. But at the same time, there's nothing about the packages themselves that really, aside from saying it's G.I. Joe Retaliation, references the movie, first of all. And secondly, there's nothing about the packaging design that stands out, that engages the consumer, that entices them to want to take part in the experience of looking at the packaging and clipping the file card out, because they don't even have file cards. The cross-sell is very weak. Again, the other toys are sort of shoehorned and squished into the right side of the back of the packaging. Their urge to sell is weak. It just says, look for these other figures. It's not very assertive. So overall, the Retaliation product design, in terms of the packaging, is I would say a failure. There's nothing about it that's memorable. There's nothing about it that's unique, that stands out on a visual level on the shelves at your stores. There's nothing for kids to really keep or want to keep. There's nothing for the adult collector to want to keep either. So, I mean, you might as well just put them in plastic bags for all intents and purposes, really, because whether it's a kid or an adult, they're going to throw away the Retaliation packaging. There's nothing about it that has any value to it. As opposed to the previous packages, the cards, the card backs, people save them. People still save them and actively look for them when they want to complete their collection. People who buy their figures loose on the secondary market try to go back and find the original card back so that they can add it to their collection to try to make that figure complete. I mean, for example, this Roadblock here from Retaliation, if you wanted to collect it in the future, it's probably unlikely that a person, a collector, would want to get the original Battle Kata Roadblock card back, because there's really nothing about it that is that I think has any intrinsic collecting value. There's no file card. The visual design is really, again, generic and forgettable. And if you get it for Roadblock, it's really little. There's a little difference between getting it for Roadblock or Snake Eyes or Flint or any other character toy in the Retaliation line. And then again, when we compare it to the 30th anniversary, the 25th anniversary, any other of the previous G.I. Joe toy lines, those packages have some collective value because they're all unique. There's something about them that has value to them, to the collector. And I am sort of picking on Hasbro right now, but that's simply because the Hasbro approach to packaging the G.I. Joe Retaliation toys is something that really stuck out to me. And I'm sure we see elements of sort of, I guess, cost cutting and concept, I guess, a weaker concept in the packaging designs in other Hasbro toy lines like Transformers, but I haven't noticed them to the same degree that the Retaliation toy line has seemed to present itself in. Like, it's really like a jump backwards, in my opinion. So I'm going to ask all of you who are watching this video a simple question, and basically, have you noticed differences in modern toy packaging compared to toy packaging of previous eras? Or perhaps for you guys out there who collect toys outside of the North American market, if you collect, for example, Japanese toys like Robot Damashi, for example, how do you see those toy packages in terms of their design compared to other toy design or toy package designs, for example? I would really like to hear what all of you have to say, what your observations are, and your views on this subject in general. As usual, I welcome responses in the comment section, and always video responses are definitely welcome. Thank you very much for watching. Have yourselves a great day, and I'll see you at the next video.